Pasco County Metropolitan Planning Organization to order. Can we have the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
Merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your love and providence, and grant that we, from every day account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Hernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Kathy Sarkey. Commissioner Mike Lowe. Commissioner Jack Romano.
Here.
And Chairman Jeff Slattery.
Here. At this time, I'd like to call for public input. If there's anyone in the public that would like to address the MPO board, now is your time to come up and do so. As I see no one coming up, we're going to move on to approval of meeting minutes for the minutes of June 11, 2019. We have a motion to approve. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we'll move on to MPO Advisory Committee reports. I saw Mr. Jose Cardenas come in, so Jose, would you like to present us with the Citizens Advisory Committee report, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and MPO Committee. Our August meeting was held on Wednesday, July 31st in Wesley Chapel. During the meetings, we approved the previous minutes from July with a correction. So that's been noted. The action items in the month of August meeting included A, the final 2019 list of priority projects, public hearing. We recommended approval. And we also suggested to make one list, one page, and color code sections for meetings efficiency and public consumption. Item B was approval of the annual roll forward amendment to the adopted TIP 2020-2024. We recommended approval. And we received updates and presentations on 2045 LRTPN needs plan update. And in the CAC committee, we made our priority to keep the conversation going on the 54 state road improvements. We discussed the role of impact fees on commercial projects along 54. We're going to keep that conversation going. So you're going to hear that every month.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jose while he's here? No?
Any questions? That was all right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Stovall with BPAC?
Good morning, everyone. We met last in June. We did not have a July meeting, but we did meet at the end of June, and we had an interesting meeting. We revisited by Commissioner Mariano and Commissioner Starkey, so that was kind of an extra treat for us. We got some updates on some of the trail projects, and one that people ask about a lot, so I'll just let you know that the Starkey Gap, which is over on the west side of the county, very important part of our trail connector. People are kind of wondering why it's not finished, and the answer is weather. It's moving, but some of the parts are just underwater, so it's going to be a little delayed, but it's moving along. We talked about with the Park Department, a grant that the Park Department is coming on to put some recreational equipment in one of the county parks. That was an interesting presentation. We did have a discussion about the priority list that you guys are going to look at today, and we don't want to have your problem of making that ranking because we know that's hard. And then we have a project being developed kind of jointly by a couple of our BPAC members and with Ross, our staff person, and it's called bikepasco.com. And so bikepasco.com is the prototype web map for bicycle trails in the county. And so I think that holds a lot of promise because our two committee members who are working on that are riders of these trails, and so they communicate with their buddies who ride, and so I think that's got a lot of potential for the future. The last thing we'd like to, of course, continue to advocate for is getting our map, our printed map for other users, tours primarily. And with that, that's my report, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stovall. So we will move on to action items. Ross is going to present the final 2019 list of priority projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. We are presenting our staff recommended 2019 list of priority projects today. Starts on page 8 of your packet. This list is very similar to what we presented you as a draft back in June. It was subject to public comment for 30 days. In June and July, we received no public comment. We did receive a few editing requests from Zephyr Hills and from FDOT. Made those edits. For example, the Geiger Road sidewalk is actually a multi-use path. We made that change. In the adoption version of this, Commissioner Mariano, we did add County Line Road as a descriptor to the CR 578 projects. These projects are become eligible by being on this list. They're eligible for funding through FDOT, and we're generally able to fund the uppermost projects each year to submit them for funding. This list is also rather consistent with what was approved last year. We did add a few projects, most notably for traffic system management projects towards the upper end of the roadway capacity list. It's what we consider low-hanging fruit, big bang for the buck projects that achieve a lot for relatively little investment, so we want to prioritize those. But this is your list to amend, change as you desire, so we're here to answer questions that might relate to accepting or changing the list.
Commissioner Mariano?
Mr. Chairman, I had a few suggestions that I thought would be very important to change. One of them I had mentioned before was county line roads. Years ago, Pasco County was trying to push to get the road construction done on County Line Road, and Hernando County didn't want to do it. They then focused on intersections, and I think we saw a couple of years ago all the money that Hernando County got to do all that construction. Those two roads, that road itself, and we got broken down into two sections, could qualify for what they call TRIP funding, which Commissioner Stark and I spoke about after taking the MPOAC meeting. The funding right now is limited to TRIP funding to about $700,000 a year. It used to be funded a lot more. I talked to Senator Simpson about, looking at moving up the TRIP funding, and being that both counties are in his district and contiguous counties are a qualification for that, he's willing to go look at putting more money into the TRIP funding this coming session. So if we move these items up, and even if we allocate it where it's going to be for TRIP funding only, it'll put us in better position, I think, to get it funded. It'll also maybe make Hernando County, bring it back into their list, because we had a 50-50, or let's say a 60-40 agreement. They were going to pay 60% of the cost, we're going to pay 40% of the cost. If we go to the TRIP funding and then try to get federal funding as well, it's probably going to end up being a 50-50 match. If we move it up on the list, I think it puts us in position to say to Hernando County, look, we do want to get this road done as well. It may get their MPO, which is partly with Citrus County and them, that they may move it up as well. I haven't had one-on-one conversations with the commissioners, though we did have a staff meeting with the Hernando County representative just this past week as well. And he thinks if we were going to do something, we'd make a move on our list, and then maybe they take a look at it. But with the projects they have, they don't have the funding for it. But again, the TRIP funding would qualify. So what I would like to do is, this project was ranked the previous year 13, 14. Staff has moved it down to 16, 17. I'd like to move it up to like 9 and 10. And again, to specify with TRIP funding, so it doesn't put any other project out of the funding place where I don't, subsequent it, we'll make it strictly that it's going to only be TRIP funding. That's unreasonable? Worth a shot?
Well, Mr. Chair, I appreciate it, but I'll be honest with you, at the same time, I'm looking at some of the projects, how they are ranked, and, I don't want to see some of those move down. So, what are you willing to do, and what are you willing to switch out? That's the big question.
And again, these are ranked from 13, 14. They've been on the list for 15 years. And where Hernando has put up there, it's still a priority. To me, it should be a priority road. It just never moved. I mean, frankly, most of the time, it's just in my district anyway, so it doesn't affect anybody else. And when Hernando pulled it back, I says, well, there's no need to be pushing this item if they're not going to come to the table with their money. But with TRIP funding, and I don't know, and staff, if you could talk about this, if it's TRIP funding, it's not going to take away funding from anything else that's here, because we only get a set amount of funding. But I think if it shows it's higher on a priority list, even if it's isolated with that funding source, I think it gives it more credibility to let it take the next step to try to get that funding. That's like extra money coming into the pot.
So again, the question is, what are you willing to switch out? I mean, something's gonna have to move down, if something moves up.
Well, and what I would say would just take 16, 17, move it up to 9, 10, and let everything just roll back. I mean, Frank, if you look at the list, go back the past 6 years, you go look in District 5, do you see a single project in there for transportation? I don't think you do.
Well, I'm just asking,
I'm just-
that's the question is.
No, but I'm just saying that, there's nothing else I can switch my district out, because there's nothing else on the list.
I'm
It's
not
the
saying
only
that's to be
project I
your
get on.
district, I'm just saying, what would you be willing to, what do you think is
And
a
I'm
less
not saying,
priority?
I don't want to switch anything out, I just want to move it up to 9 and 10 and just let everything roll back. And again, I'll put the
Well, you're
caveat in
switching
there.
out then, so. I mean,
Well-
it's taking the place of another project.
And those of us that are passed under 10, we get moved down, and so we got a couple there, that's, yeah.
Commissioner Wells, you had a comment?
Yeah, I guess my question is if, and I don't disagree with Mr. Mariano with projects that have or haven't been done in his district. I know I've seen them on the list since I've been here. But when it comes to TRIP funding, if these are the only 2 projects that we're going to be, okay, so it's not. Where would it be ranked on the TRIP funding? And that's probably where it needs to be. We've looked at it and ranked with what we have out there for the TRIP
Right.
funding. Not necessarily on this list.
All of the projects you see on the list are eligible for TRIP funds.
But which ones do we think are,
All of them?
are we using?
That's
Are
what
we
he
using
said.
in Aurora, all of them? You know,
No, I mean,
Yeah, so
as Commissioner Mariano said,
doesn't
it's a
matter.
limited funding DOT has, and the key to the grant funding is a 50% match, so the local government has to come up with a 50% match anyways. But all of these projects are eligible. One of the eligibility criteria is to be on a regional network, and they all are.
All right, I'll tell you what, let me pull back the motion, because that's different from the conversation I thought I had with you guys. So let me go work with Senator Simpson, just figure out how he can structure it, and then he can go look at it. As long as it's on the list, it will be on the list, so I'll pull that back.
Okay. No, and, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate, and I just wanted to know what you thought could move down, because, I'm just looking at seeing what's funded, if there's a study underway, is it under the row acquisition phase and stuff. We don't want to move something like, my opinion was, we don't want to move something like that down if the project's already moving.
And again, I wasn't looking to hurt any project,
Yeah.
so I'll let him go kind of address it and find out the best way to
Okay.
structure it and go. I was completely unaware of,
Or
as
Commissioner
you're
Mariano,
structuring it to me right
yes,
now.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe one of them can move up, maybe at least one can.
If it's on the list, it's still on the list, we're okay. So I'll go work with Senator Simpson and try to figure out how to go get it done and try to elevate, because I still got to go work with the Hernando commissioners anyway. So rather than do that, because I don't want to affect the other projects in line for that at this point. All right, I have another suggestion, is on Jasmine Lakes, and I think staff's already working on this, and we just talked about it just as I walked in. Day Spring Academy have just acquired a school at the Jasmine Lake Civic Association. They've just donated the school. So Senator Legg had reached out to me about trying to do something with the sidewalk. So maybe safe route to schools, we can add it to that list as far as safe route to schools, and just change the category that it's here now, because it's just sitting there, but to make it a safe route to schools program.
What page are you?
That would be, they're not listed at the pages. It's on, I think it's number 16. It's number 16 now, it was 12, it was actually, it's number 12 now, it was 16 the previous year. So right now it says just right-of-way verification needed. I think we should add in there, it says a safe right to schools category for it.
Oh, okay.
Go apply
So
for that
then
funding.
You want this to be a safe house to school project?
Yes, there's a
So
school.
then we'll have to yank it out, because the MPO does not manage that program anymore.
Well,
Okay.
if I can interject, that project's presence on this list won't affect the safe routes eligibility or ranking. We can apply if the qualification eligibility requirements are met.
Okay, all right, so nothing needs to happen there then?
It wouldn't, any change to this list wouldn't affect the safe routes,
Okay.
any safe routes factors.
Okay, and my last item is, if you look at the priority list on the same page, item number 7 and 17. It's Old Dixie Highway multi-use path. One's from North Brady Street to Gulfway, the other's from Gulfway to Racetrack Road. North Brady is somewhere around New York Avenue. It's a road that does need to be done. We do need to connect it. But right now, I was in DC, talking with USDA, talking with the fire service, where I saw actually a fake Smokey the Bear when I was up there. And the two meetings I had up there, because at south of SunWest Park, there's a big Swiftman piece of property. There's a fire trail on the outside. It's a dirt road. When we had a fire there a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago now, things were burning out. It burnt over there, burnt across the road into Sea Pines, almost got to homes but didn't. Our fire service team did a phenomenal job. It was said at that point, if they had a fire trail inside that Swift Mud area, inside of Old Dixie, they could have protected that fire and done something a lot better. So I want to go apply a grant program, and it got a little bit complex talking with the USDA, because I was just looking to do a fire trail there, which Kevin Guthrie likes the idea, wants to help with the idea, so we can go to a state grant, but we also could get a federal grant to go along with it. So I want to take and move these two projects to switch them out. And if I do that, it just gives a little bit more leverage as we're making that discussion. So it won't change anything else in anybody's district. It's in switching from 7 to 17. I think I get the other one funded first.
Sounds good.
So
That's a
that's-
motion, need it.
I'll make that a
Second.
motion. So I'm going to switch from 7 to 17 on the priority list for sidewalks.
All those in favor of that switch?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else have discussion?
No.
One thing I will bring up, if I could, we had a discussion in Newport Richey City Council regarding the multimodal projects. The underpass at the Cody River Bridge that we're working on, since day one, it's been the city of Newport Richey stance that would be it's not even located in our city limits, but we looked at it as an economic driver to open up golf cart transportation from the Port Richey waterfront to the city of Newport Richey and downtown. So it's our stance as a city council, for our discussion in the last meeting, that if that underpass cannot sustain golf carts, it just doesn't make sense for us to commit any more funding to that project. If it's just used as bicycle and pedestrian underpass, it just doesn't benefit the city of Newport Richey. So our stance is if it cannot sustain golf carts, other than the $15,000 for the feasibility study, we probably are not going to commit any more funding. No, not probably, we are not going to commit any more funding if it can't sustain golf carts in
Mr.
the
Chairman?
underpass. Yes,
Is that in the city, I mean, is that in Port Richey?
it's in Port Richey, yes.
Okay, so I thought it was set up where it was gonna have for golf carts on there.
It was, and I attended a workshop for public input, and there's a little memorandum here regarding, interoffice memorandum regarding that project. And it was brought to my attention the night before the workshop that the county taking the lead had asked for FDOT funding for that project. And FDOT funding, correct me if I'm wrong, representatives from FDOT, does not allow any funding for anything affiliated with golf carts. Subsequently, after the fact, the request was denied anyway, but that was kind of pretty eye-opening to us as a city. Why are we asking for funding when we can't use that funding for golf cart transportation under the bridge? So,
Can I jump in?
of course.
Thank you. The path needs to be a certain width to allow, multiple bikes
Right.
to get by, or multiple walkers to get by. So I think, you just want to make sure that a path is wide enough for, because, it's a busy area, right? So you might have 5 or 6 people, going east or north, and 5 or 6 people going south. You'll make sure it's wide enough for that. I think that's just make sure the width is proper. I mean, we're not asking for anything with, it has to be specifically for golf carts.
Right, no, it wasn't
Now,
just for
if
golf
somebody were to want to allow golf carts in their city, that would be an ordinance they could pass amongst themselves. In Pasco County, if you would like to have a golf cart in certain neighborhoods, there's a process you can go through in which I've had residents come to me and the staff has helped with their process to allow golf carts in the community. Two separate issues though, right? But for this pathway, we just want to make sure it's wide enough for a number of citizens to get back and forth. That's a very busy area, you know.
I think Terry's got something to add. to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to, I can speak to this a bit, and
Sure.
Terry.
Okay.
Good morning, Nectarios Pitos, Pasco County Planning and Development Department. Just a point of clarification. We haven't really come to a determination regarding golf carts on the paths. It is a matter that is going to be discussed at an upcoming meeting of stakeholders on August the 22nd with the consultants to discuss the full issue of what is all involved with the golf carts and what we can potentially expect moving forward and how we might get them or how we might not be able to have them. But the decision hasn't yet been, we haven't come to that decision yet.
Right, I just want to bring to the board's attention that from the city's point of view, for us to commit any more funding, we have to be able to get it has to be wide enough to get golf carts underneath.
Well,
If I could quickly address that as well from sort of a technical standpoint, a lot of what we deal with in projects like these are constraints. There are two significant constraints to golf carts, not to say they're not, you know, they might be surmountable. They might not be. One, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, is financial. There are legal restrictions on funding. We might be able to get a waiver to those restrictions. We might not, in which case it would be up to the, locals, us, or the cities in the county to fund this. The other constraint concerns safety. Each end of that undercrossing is going to have blind corners that are going to be difficult to design around. One thing that we've talked about as a project team is the idea of maybe, if you're familiar with one-lane bridges in places like Hawaii, one direction can pass at a time. So we might be able to set something up that would allow one golf cart to pass, or one direction of golf cart travel at a time and accommodate that on a smaller width. These are just ideas, but as Terry mentioned, they're going to be discussed as part of the project. That's the whole point of the feasibility study.
Right, and I'm sure you could mount mirrors, large mirrors up on the corners, so as you're approaching to go underneath, you can see what's coming at you through the mirror on each corner. I've seen that before as well.
be
so
good with
just
even
something to
That
think
is-
about.
even with bikes.
Yeah, bikes or any traffic.
That's an intervention, but if there are crashes on that bridge, they could be catastrophic, and it's it could be, we have to take these, the safety concerns
course.
seriously.
Yeah.
It's a liability for whoever owns that facility.
Yes, and to address Commissioner Moore, the city of Port Richey and the city of New Port Richey does currently allow golf carts on their city streets. You just have to go get them. They have to be street legal, and you have to go to the police department, pay a fee, get them inspected on an annual basis.
Very good.
So, anything else, Commissioner Mariano?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. If the city doesn't want to put any more money into it because of that condition, that wouldn't slow me down in the importance of this project. I have met with the AECom people. We went down to Catches and met with the owners there because their property kind of abuts it too. We talked about it after that to try to get their buy-in. Obviously, it's their right of way. We're going to need to make that connection into the city of Port Richey. I will say I think AECom's doing a very good job designing it. They're going to design it as wide as they can without affecting the bridge on both sides, with the embankment and the poles that are around it, so they can be so fully contained. I think we keep pursuing it every step of the way. If we need to deal with the golf court thing later, that's fine. Let's just at least get the thing built, because even if we just get it built, it's still going to be a great, viable thing, even though it may not work for golf carts if that's the case. So, not to say that we don't want to see golf carts there, because obviously we do, but I think just getting the step, keep the thing moving, and then we can deal with it, build it as wide as we can, as safe as we can, and we'll see how it goes.
Commissioner Wells, you have a number?
And I agree with you, Jeff, and obviously, I agree with everybody, but I think the idea when we brought this up, it's been over a year ago, is the idea was golf carts. I mean, we need to do to make this happen. We have penny money that we could use for this. It is an economic driver. We need to move forward. I think an exemption is a good idea, but, at this board, majority said, hey, let's move forward with this, looking into the feasibility study. Obviously, you're working on it, but the priority is the golf carts. For sure, positively, I think it can work. So I think we definitely need to move forward, but I do agree yes. So we need the golf carts support, and we need the support of all three of us together, City of Port Richey, City of New Port Richey, and us, need to hold hands on this and continue. So that's very important.
Right, it's just, I agree 100%. It's just a tough sell for our citizens if we're devoting their taxpayer dollars to a project outside our city limits. If it's just for pedestrian use and bicycle use, which is very, very important, but it's a tough sell to commit our tax dollars to that without the economic impact that the golf cart access would bring. Any other discussion on the list of priority projects?
Negative.
Nope. So we need a motion and a second. That's a roll call
So
vote.
moved.
Second.
First and a second.
Mr. Chairman, can we just summarize, so we're just flip-flopping Commissioner Mariano's sidewalk project?
Yes, Commissioner Mayor, can you go ahead and,
Yeah, we're going to
Reiterate.
flip-flop number 7 and number 17.
And the other change was, we're gonna make a note on the safe routes to school.
And it sounds like you're doing that internally anyway, so that's fine.
Councilman Matt Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Kim Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Opie,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Bowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Aye.
Chairman Jeff Sargent.
Aye. Thank you very much. We'll move forward to the approval of the annual roll forward amendment to the adopted TIP. Mandy, you have this one?
So basically, this comes before you every year around this time. Some of the projects that didn't get started in 19 are automatically rolled over into 2020. There's like a handful of them in your packet. State DOT, that their fiscal year actually gets adopted October 1st. We just want to be consistent with state. So in the adopted TIP, we're moving those projects to 2020. That's all there is.
Any questions for Mandy? In that case, entertain a motion.
Move approval.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. And we're moving to approval of performance measures consensus document. John?
Yes, good morning. So as part of our performance measures that we're required to do for FDOT and for the FHWA, the state had wanted to see us all do something kind of uniform instead of us each individually submitting performance measures, although a lot of our performance measures are similar. So they coordinated through the MPOC, which is our statewide organization, to develop a consensus document, which really just spells out the commitments that we're all making to performance measures. We also include transit properties, so it's to make sure we're coordinating with them to get their appropriate data. So it's just really a document instead of a resolution that we all submit, include in our tips, to say that we're committed to the performance measure process, this document. So we just need formal approval to include it in our tip, and that's really our request today, barring any questions.
Any questions? No? Entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. If it pleases the board, on the, oh, sorry, I skipped myself. Pasco County Public Transportation Report updates.
Good morning, everybody. Just so you know, Kurt is at a meeting in Orlando today that he had to be at. So my name is Bill Morris, and I'm the Administrative Services Manager at PCPT. And I have been here for all of about 8 weeks. And this is Rose Bruckner, who is the institution of PCPT, so she's here in case I fall. So we've had a bit busy summer in the area of grants and procurement. The TD Commission, as you all know, there's a trust fund that has been around forever. And, you know, every year all 67 counties get an apportionment of that trust fund. Well, this year the legislature appropriated and the governor approved $10 million for what they call innovation and service development grants. And one of the key components of that was providing mobility to TD persons on an inter-county basis. So we put in a grant for about, oh, and the other key is that this is competitive grants. This is not an automatic grant. So we put in a grant to provide inter-county service to what we're calling the USF Activity Center, which of course includes the VA hospital, the Moffitt Cancer Center, the Shriners Hospital, and Advent Health, which is formerly Florida Hospital. And then we would have another service that would serve the Downtown and West Shore Activity Center, which of course includes Tampa General Hospital. So that grant was for about $750,000. We were told by the TD Commission that we're the only CTC in the state who proposed inter-county service. And so while the funding is at a 90-10 already, one of the things that we've learned is that the VA hospital is responsible for guaranteeing transportation to veterans, but sometimes their providers aren't always that reliable. So I think if we form a relationship with the VA hospital, we very well may likely be able to generate the entire 10% local match just from the VA hospital. So this could end up being a very good thing. On the procurement front, we are just on the verge of ordering 8 buses from Gillig. 2 of those will be for, what is it? Shady Hills. Yeah, Shady Hills. And then 2 of the buses will go to the Eastern Division, and 4 of them will stay on the west side. And just so you know, it's very typical with transit systems around the country to have up to what's called a spare ratio, a 20% spare ratio of the fleet. We have absolutely no spare ratio whatsoever. So this is really ultimately going to be a positive thing for us. We just finished a scope. I just sent it to Chris and Dan yesterday to embark on a strategic planning effort that will be, in alignment with the Pasco County strategic plan. And we are getting ready to procure a general planning consultant, which we desperately need to augment our tiny little staff. And then we are also getting ready to procure a new video surveillance system for the buses. So that's kind of been our summer, and then I kind of wanted Rose to give you a little update on last night. We had as Rose mentioned, we had a horrible weekend. We all had a horrible weekend last weekend, and so this is kind of a feel-good story for the week.
Thank you. Yesterday, we partnered with the Southeastern Guide Dogs. This will be an ongoing partnership where we will have, we will be teaching puppies twice a year from when they're very young, and then again when they're at 6 months, to learn the noises, the feel of our buses, not only our buses, but our parasystem as well. We had 10 dogs and 14 trainers there. Last night, we performed it at the Park and Ride in Wesley Chapel. The next one will be August 17th on a Saturday. We're trying to do one during the week and on a weekend to get multiple people who can attend this to get the dogs trained. And we'll be doing this twice a year for all the dogs. So that's what was very exciting. We had the news there last night. ABC showed up with the rain. A couple others declined, but they said they'll try to get there on the 17th. But it was a great event, and we were there about 2 hours. And thank you, Mike Wells, for sharing that information yesterday with everybody on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can go back up.
Just want to mention our PIO was just amazing last night. They were absolutely amazing.
We took video. The PIO office was there, took video. They were making a video to put on the website and social media so we could share it throughout the year.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If it pleases the board, we're going to move on to status reports, presentations, and updates. The representatives from FDOT sat very patiently during our last meeting, and we ran out of time. So if it's okay, I'd like to move up item number C, the FDOT presentation, campaign next, and other project updates in Pasco County to our next order of business.
Thank you. I'm Richard Moss. I'm the Director of Development for District 7 and for FDOT. I'm here this morning to talk about some of the work that we've been doing in Pasco. What I've got here, we got the major projects and a little bit of the Tampa Bay Next update. If there's anything that you'd like to interrupt and discuss when we're talking about that subject, it'd probably be easier just to talk about it then and still wait until the end to discuss. This is what we feel is, I don't think I've gotten every project that we're working on completely. There's some that are in hiatus or in design that I don't have in the presentation, but if you would like an update on that, I'd be glad to talk about those when we get there. Uh-oh. Looks like we've got a problem. That's the latest version. We'll start off with the 52 corridor. It's pretty busy for us. We just let the project, the 52 Clinton Avenue extension, out of Dade City on July 31st. We got a real good bid. It came in about $5 million underneath our engineer's estimate. It went to Superior Construction out of Jacksonville. No big issues with that one so far. Like I said, you'll probably start seeing construction later this year on that, on the new alignment. Roughly about 1,300 days worth of construction, what we estimated. Hopefully the contractor will work a little bit faster and get that done quicker. Moving to the west, we're completing the one that's under construction west of I-75. I believe that's due early to complete later this year. We worked with the county at Old Pasco Road to get some of the signal work lined up and the intersection lined up, so whenever they go to work on Old Pasco Road, they don't have to do any work at State Road 52. The big news is the one just west of there from Bellamy Brothers to US 41. We are anticipating funding that in the new 5th year for construction. I know that was there was some discussion last MPO meeting about getting that funded. It is the county's #1 priority. We have the money to do it in the new 5th year, so we're moving forward with putting that into the work program this year. Right-of-way funding is completely funded, but it's sporadic, so it's gonna line up pretty good. So that section will be done. Will be started in 24 as far as construction goes. Just to the west of there, from 41 to the Suncoast Parkway, we just let that project in May. Got good bids on that one as well. DAB is a contractor on that, and we're going to be moving forward with that. So that's working. That project also includes about 1,000 feet of US 41 to the south where we have a backup problem. So that will be taken care of in that project. And then the project to the south of that, from that connection on 41 down to Connerton, we'll let next year. So there'll be a lot of construction going on through this area for the next couple of years. And then I think that covers the 52. So if there are any questions.
52 is going to be a concrete road? Is that
The extension from,
from Clinton to
no, from, what is the western cross street there?
Prospect?
Prospect.
Yeah.
From Prospect out to the new the Murata will be concrete, will be a 4-lane concrete section.
Right.
And then the rest of the ends will be in asphalt. A little bit easier to work with in asphalt. And we got some special funding to put that in concrete, assist funding. We're anticipating a lot of truck traffic using that as a route to 75 now, coming up through Lakeland to go out there.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So,
And I guess the extension of which we're doing a study right now for East Clinton Avenue going out and coming back around to hit 98.
yeah, I got that a little bit later in the, on some of our PD&E projects that we come up, that's exactly correct. We're going to start studying, taking that out to 98, doing a little bit better connection. The 98-301 intersection, there's some issues out there that we want to take a look at.
They've already had one meeting at Dade City Hall over here
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago that we attended, so
Yes, sir.
it's good.
This is like I mentioned, this is the alignment. It's actually a pretty good project, a lot of good. I will highlight this one. A lot of people complain about how long we take to build, to get to roads. Whenever we took this project over 4 years ago, so it roughly took us 4 years to get through design and right away, so it can be done. The key to this is there was funding. That's really the key to getting any road done and completed, and we got the funding. So this one is actually really a good example of what we can do at FDOT if we have the funding and getting it moved forward.
Well, I've heard the same thing you're talking about. A lot of people talk about DOT is very slow, but we actually had an accident this past year out there at Trilby and 98, and DOT acted very quickly on that to get a roundabout and buy it. They've already bought some of the right-of-way, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to let that project in
December.
December. So that is one of the things, we worked with Senator Simpson on getting the funding on that, and we've gotten that because of that accident. We also have another intersection up at County Road 491 and US 98 up in Hernando County that we had the same issue where a family of, I believe, 5 or 7 were,
Right.
There was an issue.
Well, we'll certainly appreciate FDOT stepping forward, and that was done very quickly to make that a roundabout, and hopefully that'll stop any of those kind of accidents in the future. And it's a good thing. So.
Yes, sir. On this one of the interesting things is, and we're currently working with the county on this, is the, whenever we're done with the realignment, we have to, we're going to go back and the current State Road 52 will now become County Road 52. So there will be some coordination there during construction, because whenever we complete some of it, we made some commitments to the developer out there, because they've got a Publix opening up and they wanted to get some access out there. So there's going to be, when we finish that, that will become the new State Road 52, and the old 52 will become County Road 52. So there will be a lot of coordination with the the first responders and the county on that. You know, so some people don't think, you know, it's going to affect people's mailing addresses and stuff like that. So that's some of the stuff we have to coordinate whenever we do these type of projects. But
Yeah.
we're working with the county. We also got a couple roundabouts on that, I believe at Pompeo, and then the one up here in Dade City, right there at Meridian, I believe. So we're working on that. We're getting the funding on that. It looks like we're going to be able to get those funded and completed. We will have those in the work program before we transfer State Road 52 to the county to become County Road 52. There's just a couple of 301 projects. Just wanted to highlight the orange ones up in Dade City. We're resurfacing. We worked with the city on. We did a little bit of a diet on that. We're working with the landowner there to do a signal in the future. We set that up. The purple is a widening on 301 from Cossack to Island. It's in design. The green is a project that we're doing with the city of Zephyr Hills. We've been coordinating with them. We initially had the one-way pairs that we were going to create out there. We were going to do it on 6th and 7th. They came to us a couple years ago and wanted to change that, and we've worked with the city of Zephyr Hills on that, and we're looking at getting that funded, started back up to move. We will not be putting traffic on 7th Street, and we'll be looking to do the northbound on Gall Boulevard. So there's some issues that we're working through that.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, I just want to thank you, the DOT, for the way they've worked with our staff. They've done a really good job, and I think we finally got it nailed down what it is that we would like to see. So I think you've worked incredibly with us, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what you're saying, Steve, what you're saying is you're going to widen the Gall Boulevard part from north and south?
I don't know how much widening we're going to have to do. We were doing, on 7th, we were having to do some widening, but I think the original was to do a 6th and 7th as the one-way pair, 6th as the southbound, 7th as the northbound, and use Gall as more of a well, I think it was more of a pedestrian-friendly,
Kind of a local road.
yeah, local road. And then the city came to us and said that they didn't feel like, they had done some work on 7th, especially closer to downtown, and they did not want to see that. So we definitely worked with them. Want to give the locals what they want. That project was so far out. Unfortunately, we had to take some funding on that to do some construction out on the 5441 intersection. So we don't have any funding on that. But we're working on getting that funding and getting that reprioritized, because we feel like we've got a good scope right now, and we're moving forward with design. We just started getting back into the design, because there are some things we're going to have to change with those requests that were made by the city of Zephyr Hills.
Okay, good.
So it's moving forward. And then the pink is the widening of US 301 down to the county line. It's in design at the moment. With 56 getting finished, we feel there's going to be a need to get that widened up through Zephyr Hills. That's really through the Zephyr Hills 301 corridor. We anticipate with 56 coming online now. We had the ribbon cutting last month. With that road will become, at least to the north, there will be a demand. And those two one-way pairs, we work with the city on the one-way pairs. Our future projections are for 6 lanes, but we're currently only going to get 4 lanes with some parking in there, but with the understanding that when the need for the 6 lanes comes, that we would 6-lane 301 through downtown Zephyr Hills. Just a little side note on that, we opened the road, and we've seen a significant drop in traffic on State Road 54 through the construction, so that road is definitely getting used. It's a really great project. You know, those new alignments do open up a lot for the community. we put a trail out there, and we've got enough right-of-way to do a lot more in the future with all the development that's planned out there, so it's definitely a good corridor, and we've worked with the county and got that where we need that, and it'll be good for the future. On that, we will talk a little bit about we're going to do a PD&E on 56 to extend it out there, and that's a slide later. I-75 at Overpass Road, we advertised for a design-build team on Monday. We are moving forward with that with the county. We've been working with county staff. We're trying to get the ultimate interchange built so we never have to come back through there. It'll save a lot of money, in the future. It's a great project. I took my staff out there and looked at the amount of development going on out there, and it was sort of eye-opening to me about, a lot of times we talk about acres being developed, they're talking about square miles being developed out there. We drove through the development, there's a lot of good things going out there, so that'll be a good interchange. We anticipate that being roughly about 800 days to construct, and we're going to let that in April of 2020. So you're looking at probably about 3 years out, that interchange will be open. Working with county staff on that. The county's working with with some of the developers out there on the north side of Overpass for the right-of-way, and FDOT is acquiring the right-of-way for the project on the west side of the interchange. There's some mobile homes out there that we're working with, and we're working with some of the land developers out there to get that taken care of.
Mr. Chairman? Thank you. So you're going to do the Virgin Diamond, very similar to what you did in Sarasota, what you're doing on 56 at that location?
No, we're going to do a diamond interchange with a flyover
explain the
more like Bruce B. Downs.
Oh, you're going to have a flyover like Bruce, okay,
We've
gotcha.
got we looked at the diverging diamond, and that would help, but in the ultimate, that flyover will process a lot more traffic going southbound.
Okay,
So it's a much better design, and that's adding a little bit of cost to the project, but you'll never have to go back after that. There was a commitment with Federal Highway on what the ultimate interchange was supposed to look like, and we feel like at this time it's the best. And we've worked with the county staff, and we feel like we've got enough funding to do that.
So at first we had a phase 1 and a phase 2 was the flyover, but now you're going to actually do that work together?
Yeah, the phase 2 would have been the flyover.
Right.
We were going to do just a normal interchange, and I think this is the best option, because once you open up that interchange, it's going to be real busy, and you don't want to do a construction project with that,
Right. I agree. That's great.
so you do have, the design is done, fully done?
We have a concept plan.
You have a concept?
And we're going to a design-build team. We've advertised, we go through a procurement process where we're going to shortlist 3 contractors that have a designer with them, and they will come up, they're going to look at the interchange layout, and they'll maximize it, and then the contract will be awarded to them in April, and then they will begin construction after that.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to say this, though, we work with county staff, and they've been very, very helpful with us on that, from the waterway department and the project management department. Kevin Sumner, I believe it's Kevin Sumner with
Kevin, yeah.
yeah, he's been very helpful, from day one whenever we started, this came to FDOT to be able to move forward with that. And initially it was the county that was going to do that, but we took that over from the county because we felt like design build was the proper way to do this project. It'll be and there's an existing bridge out there. We're going to demolish that, and it will be a full new interchange. We've worked with the county on the maintenance of the structures through there. FDOT will be maintaining the structures within that interchange. So everything we've got we're working for an agreement with the county, because it will be their property, and FDOT will be doing the work within the property. So that may come to the board eventually to talk about that, a board of county commissioners to talk about that agreement with FDOT so we can build that project. Another good project going on in Pasco County. It'll really, it's anticipated to help out 54 as well, relieve some of that traffic that's going on 54 with all the development that's going on in East. We're going to take it all the way over to Old Pasco Road and over to Boyette. So it's about a mile's worth of road that we're going to be 4-lane, going from 2 to 4 out there as well.
Yeah.
This is the Virgin Diamond. Looks like, DAB is out there. DAB is our contractor. They're currently working through that. First diverging diamond in Tampa Bay region. So I don't know if everybody's had a chance to go down to Sarasota and drive through that one. I think their accident level's way down. This is going to process a lot more traffic through the interchange, and it's a very, very busy interchange with all the development that's going out there, especially now that we've got State Road 56 tied up to 301. Looks like construction's going a little bit slow, but, you know, we're working with the contractor. There's a lot of other work that you really can't see, wall preparation, and stuff like that. So it's moving along pretty good. State Road, like I said earlier, State Road 56 extension's complete. I believe it's August 28th or 29th. We're going to have another ceremony out there for the opening of the corridor, and that's being coordinated between the county, the state, and the DOT out there, and that's the future to come. US 41 State Road 54 intersection. We're getting back into PD&E later in the coming year on this to take some of the studies, concepts out there and come up with a plan to move forward. We're shooting for funding out in some of our outer years for this intersection. So, you know, to the right, shows some of the options that we've looked at since we've taken a step back. It's going to become, I'm sure in the future, in the near future, we'll be coordinating with the county to evaluate these proposals and see which one we come up with. A lot of traffic out there, really tight right-of-way. So these are the studies that we had mentioned, the 56 extension. We're looking to go east of 301 with the 56 extension. This was in part due to some of the work we're doing in downtown Zephyr Hills, so we can get some of that traffic off of some of the roads, some of the bypass traffic, moving it out. It indicates we're going to go to 98, so we'll be looking, that will just be the limits of the study, not really sure what the final limits are going to be. We anticipated just tying into Chansey down near the airport, so, but that's coming up, and we'll be getting that started in the spring of 2020, so it's coming up pretty quick. And then the US 301 98, Commissioner Oakley had mentioned we were going to look at extending Clinton Avenue to the east, a little bit further east, and tying into 98 a little bit further and realigning that. So that was done at the request of the county, and we're moving forward with that. Some of the transit stuff we're working on the Wesley Chapel Area Intermodal Center. We're working with the county's representatives on that. We've got a couple options in a couple areas that we're looking at, engaging with a lot of the stakeholders on that. It's in process. Just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we're looking at it and we're moving forward with it. It's also coordinating with the Spine project in Tampa. You know, this would be the northern terminus that they're looking at to tie into. This was mentioned a little bit earlier, Commissioner Mariano. I just wanted to throw this up there. These projects have been around a while on County Line Road. We've actually got in the pink and the green. Those are ones that are yet to be built, and they're in design. They're roughly at about 60% plans, but we would have to anticipate about $1 million on each one of those projects to bring them back up to meet the standards because they were put on the shelf quite a while ago. So that's just where we're at. The purple was let earlier this year. So we're moving forward with that through the development out there and moving forward with that. We've done some of the intersection improvements at Mariner. So it's moving. You know, once we get funding for that, move forward with that. I know there's been some discussions between Hernando and Pasco. Once we get that ironed out, we'll have a better idea of the vision that we need to have out there on County Line Road.
Yeah, if I could discuss that just for a second.
Commissioner Mariano.
You know, when I look at the way the roads, to me, should have been built, it should have been from the west side going over step by step by step, and frankly, I think DOT should have been working with the counties together to make that happen. Why we're building the end section, which is a strong bypass around when the simple little connection out to 41, to me, would have been a lot more reasonable as far as cost goes. There's not that much development around that could have happened. We could have probably taken that same money and built a whole nother section and added that section in there. So if you could, please get us together. Let's work out on a plan to get these funded appropriately all the way through. And I think if the business community, especially to the north and the Hernando side, we need most of the right-of-way. I know to the south, we have probably some willing sellers, or they might even donate it for transportation impacts, that we could probably get that done a lot less expensive than what's projected right now, if we take the steps forward to go do that. And I'd be happy to participate in any of those meetings.
Okay. Yeah. If we can get these prioritized, and now that we've spoken with Commissioner Mariano and understand what the priorities are from Pasco, I know working with Steve Diaz up in the Hernando, we'll move forward with it.
Thank
you. Just wanted to give a brief update. It was mentioned earlier about the Starkey Gap Trail. One of the, we're having some issues out there with rain. It's very wet. I know Commissioner Starkey's been out there to observe it. It is running a little bit behind schedule, but we're working with the contractor on that. We're looking to work with the contractor to open up the southern third of the trail, which is completed. With the way we do projects, the contractor owns and is liable for the area that he's under construction. So we have to jump through some hoops to be able to open up that trail because of liability to the contractor. So we're going to work with him in the coming months to be able to open that up, because there are people out there currently using the trail, even though it is fenced off. The middle two-thirds of the project are still, it's very wet out there, and we're working with the contractor on that. We need to get some dry weather out there to get that roadbed dried up so we can start placing the base in the asphalt. I just wanted to give you an update. Our construction folks are working with the contractor, give him some extra options to be able to dry that out and move forward with that. It's running a little bit behind it, but we're going to work with them to get a little bit more aggressive on the trail. Now we've got some Tampa Bay Next updates. We've been fairly busy this spring with our concepts on the TB Next, especially the downtown Tampa sections 4, 5, and 6, which includes the 275 I-4 interchange and the 275-60 interchange. I'll start off in Pinellas County. We're moving forward with that. This is section 2, which would essentially complete the updates of the interstate from downtown St. Pete up to the Howard Franklin Bridge. That's fully funded in fiscal year 24. We're moving forward with that, so we will have express lanes from 2 in each direction. That's the current plan from downtown St. Pete all the way up to the Howard Franklin. The Howard Franklin is still under procurement, and we are it will let in October of this year. So roughly this time next year, you'll start to see some activity out on the Howard Franklin to get that. Our current typical across the Howard Franklin is 4 lanes southbound and then 2 additional express lanes in each direction on the new bridge. And we're going to do some other activity improvements out there. We've got, as you see there in the green, that's a pedestrian trail across the bridge connecting Hillsborough County and Pinellas County. We're going to do some maintenance on the existing southbound bridge. We're going to close that off and keep the old 1959 bridge to do some maintenance. So you'll see that if you're wondering why, whenever we get to the end of the project, what we're doing there, we're doing a little bit of maintenance and bringing that structure up to standards. Right now, our budget's about $815 million, so it's a fairly sizable project going on in Tampa. So that would lead us all the way up to segment 4, which is our State Road 60, 275 interchange. This is where we're at. We've gone to the public workshop in May of this year. We're preparing the NEPA documents for approval with Federal Highway. We're going to go to a public hearing in February or March of 2020, and then we will have a record of decision that will clear this section for construction and right-of-way activities this time next year. This is the 6275 interchange. This is where our focus is with Tampa Bay Next. It's about $1 billion interchange. This is an aerial of the existing interchange. This is what it's going to look like in the future. It's got every connection to the express system and the general purpose system. So it's going to greatly enhance the amount of traffic we can run through that interchange. Some of the numbers that the projections that we've got through there are staggering. To the north of this interchange going towards Pinellas County, and this is just one number that stuck out in my head. In the 2040 traffic is 354,000 cars through that area. So the area is growing, and you know, Pasco, you know, with the veterans up there, we're coordinating with Turnpike. Veterans already has a managed system on that, a tolled system within a tolled system. So hopefully we're getting ahead of it. We're shooting to get funding for this. If I'm working with the state officials and central office, hopefully we can get it started in 2023. We want this under construction by the time the Howard Franklin project is done. So you'll see a continuation of those projects eastbound. We've got the downtown interchange. These are our 4 options. A and B are full rebuilds. C and D are just, you know, add and manage lanes. Where we're headed now with the interchange is we're doing some operation. We're going to propose operational improvements. Some of because we don't have the money to be able to do this with the segment 4, the 6275 interchange costing about $1 billion, and that's a priority for everybody. We're going to have to wait our turn to be able to do the downtown interchange, which is roughly $1.6 billion. We're going to propose to do operational improvements and improve some of the areas that are safety issues and congestion issues, especially the southbound to eastbound movement across that bridge. We're going to widen the bridge and add some traffic, add some lanes to I-4 to filter that traffic out. We're also going to we're proposing to do a north or westbound to northbound improvement and some general improvements within their interchange. It'll be a Band-Aid for now, but until we can get the $1.6 billion, it's the best we feel like we can do. Those improvements are about $300 million, but we feel like, and based on the models, they'll help us out with the traffic through the interchange and the amount of accidents we have through this. In 2016, in this interchange, we had 1,500 accidents. So that's roughly 3 to 4 a day. And if you ever drove through there, there's a lot of fender benders that go through. We have what we call lane diving right there at the Florida-Nebraska exit, and that's a real dangerous issue that we're going to try to resolve with some of our operational improvements. And one of the reasons why with Brightline, we're not quite sure what's going to happen with this interchange as far as the transit envelope, so we're going to wait and see what we get through that interchange before we make a decision on the ultimate design. And these are some of the operational improvements. I probably should have gone through those. Apologize for that. This is one, like I said, from southbound to eastbound I-4. We're going to do some work there, reduce the weave action. Then the westbound to northbound, we got those improvements. And then we have some of the ramps to downtown. We feel like we can get a little bit better movement through the interchange if we do these improvements. And then the segment 7, which is essentially from Osborne, which is just south of Hillsborough Avenue, up to north of Barris. We're planning on an additional lane in each direction, not tolled lane. And then we're going to widen the shoulders out to 15 feet so we can run buses on those during times of congestion. This is one of our priorities too, and we're working with central office on getting that. We're going to get that. This is a separate approval than the SEIS, and that is currently anticipated. We're going to a public meeting in September on Section 7. So that early next year, we hope to have an approval of that, and we'll move forward with it. This one, to take it all the way up to Barris, is about $500 million. So we're talking about some fairly big numbers to build these roads. And that's what we got as far as an update.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Musk? Mr. Mariano?
Just a quick thing. Can you go back to one of your slides? Can you see where the rail line is that's run from 41 all the way down?
Tell me when.
I'm just wondering if you can see it, because I didn't see it. If you have the bigger map where you can actually see it, because I don't see it here, but I'm just wondering where it would be location-wise. There's nowhere on that map there or this one here.
Let me see if I can get that on the overall Tampa Bay next. On this one, you're looking for the 41 rail line?
Right.
Wow. think the 41 rail line runs right up, very steady, it runs and then it will run up through there. So it runs essentially parallel to
To the North Corridor.
7. It's about a mile, no, it's not quite a mile, about a half a mile off of
Okay.
275.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Commissioner Moore?
Thank you. Just a statement, I think you're probably aware of this, but the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners did write a letter of support for Tampa Bay Next to the Hillsborough County MPO before their vote. I'm glad it went through. I think it was it a, 11-5 vote?
Yes,
If I'm
sir.
not correct. So I don't know why there was 5 dissenting votes, but there were, amazingly enough. But it's obviously an important project for the entire region, and it's going to have a positive effect on Pasco County. I mean, so again, our board, the House, Pasco County Commissioners, obviously, we're in support of it moving forward. So if you guys need anything else from us ever in the future, if you think it'd be beneficial ever to write a letter or chime in,
Yeah.
feel
No,
free
we
to let us
appreciate
know.
the support we've gotten on all of our projects.
Yeah.
You know, even, we talked about segment, the red section there, the State Road 6275 interchange. We've gotten 100%, literally 100% support for that interchange. Even the opposition in Tampa realizes that the
That was
60,
needed.
that was the one that they want, that should get done. And they,
Yeah.
in a quirky way, the downtown interchange and the 6275 interchange got intertwined, and we're
Yeah.
trying to work through that, through the NEPA process. It gets a little complicated. I think that letter of support went a long way on that vote. You know, there was a lot of work going up to that.
Of course.
And we're working with FDOT would like to, we realize everything has to happen. Transit,
Right.
roadway widening, you know, however that works out. And we're working with the Hillsborough County on that.
Of course, and we continue to be supportive of the BRT. You know, we've stated that before too, because, Wesley Chapel is positioned to be a hub for that. So
Yeah.
we want to see this entire project continue to move forward.
Yeah, and we're supportive of the spine project, and
Yeah.
we're moving forward with the PD&E. It's a $5 million PD&E between St. Petersburg and Wesley Chapel. After it gets done, we'll definitely be out here presenting, the findings to the counties and moving forward with that. We have every intention on moving forward with that. I think, some of the feasibility study options, there's some, I think people are imagining big parking lots.
I know.
And we're going to work through that.
Well, I know, obviously, as Pasco County continues to grow, and we bring obviously more opportunities here, career opportunities for people. And I live by the 75, 56 interchange, and I take it I'm by there every day. In the mornings, if you notice, there's a lot of people coming to Pasco County in the morning. I've taken a couple of pictures. I need to show up one day because you always see people leaving, but what's amazing now, between 7, 8, 9 in the morning now, as that traffic stacks up, it's not just in the afternoons, it's in the morning, and it's people coming to Pasco County to work now, which is awesome. So we want those people, in addition to our people, that still do work in Hillsborough County. We want to obviously better quality of life for them, not to sit on the road all day, but for the people that continue to come to Pasco, we want to make it easy for them to get here too. So we appreciate all your efforts.
Well, we got a lot of work going on in Pasco, and it's,
Yeah.
we don't mind working in Pasco.
Thank you, Commissioner Chairman. Commissioner Oakley?
Yeah, we do.
Well, just to let you know, this board itself also supported you on stuff you were doing out here on North 301, right out there at Lock Street to the north. And we know you went through a big study to find out that some of the safety issues of that was happening because that third lane and making that a bike lane. I think we support you on that. And when you see in the future that we need that lane back or something, I think y'all have said in the past that we could possibly get that lane back when we need it. So.
Yeah.
But we appreciate everything y'all do for us, and are you going to stay after the meeting?
Yes, I can. Yes, sir.
If you will, I'd like to meet with you a little bit. I want to talk to you about some of the things happening in Zephyr Hills area, so.
Yeah, that's no
But
problem.
that's good, so I'd like to talk to you.
And
about
anytime,
it.
if
Okay.
you have any engineering questions or transportation questions, you can definitely contact FDOT.
Yeah.
We're definitely open to listening to the locals and what they see, and because you guys know what's going on in the communities, and we
Well,
do know.
just out here south of Zephyr Hills, like you were talking about on 301, that Gall Boulevard part that goes down to 56, some of that right-of-way I know has already been taken from a developer that's going to develop right there on the old Brooks Dairy property,
Yeah.
right across from the prison and all. So that right-of-way has been planned out. So you'll have it when it's time. So all that's been taken in consideration because, and eventually someday we got to look at past the county line down there to Fowler, so.
Yeah, unlike Hillsborough County, Pasco is actually getting in front of the development a little bit better. You know, in Hillsborough County, we're struggling in South County to be able to build.
Say that again?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know I like to
we
do
talked
that,
about
so.
52, I mean, 52 and 54 and 56, those, I mean.
No, you're right.
There's a lot of.
Remind others of that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
A lot of good things.
Yeah, I just want to thank FDOT because I know from the city's perspective, we're, you know, just a piece of the county, but you guys are great. Your staff has been wonderful in terms of, you said addressing the local needs and making sure that, you know, we're very much a part of this bigger picture because we're, you know, impacted by all of it. So kudos to you. We'd love to support you, but at the same way, you have been very supportive of all the things that we've asked. So I wanted just to thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Mariano?
Yeah, just while we're piling on the accolades, I think FDOT has been doing a fantastic job to communicate with, working with our staff, trying to work regionally together to make sure we're getting the right projects done and letting us know when we can help with a letter or whatever it may be. So well, I appreciate the communication 100%.
We got a good team in place.
Team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so
Cool.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move on to the Wally Lane with Tinda Oliver with the 2045 LRTP needs plan update.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, Wally Blaine, Tyndale Oliver. We've been working on the long-range transportation plan for quite a while now. I don't have a formal presentation to give you this morning or anything, but I did want to give you an update of just kind of what's transpired since I was here in June at your last meeting. So at that time, we talked about we were getting ready to go into a public involvement phase, going out to the community and seeking some input on the needs plan. Did coordinate with the county's communications office, made sure we got press release and coverage on that, used social media to get the word out to folks. Just some of the events that we were able to go to, we were invited to speak, myself along with your staff, to the Land O'Lakes Chamber. We spoke to them. We went and had a public meeting at the Newport Richey Library. We were also at the Wiregrass Mall on a Saturday. Nice hot summer Saturday at the mall. Spent the day there. We were here at the historic courthouse for a meeting, and as a result of that, we were invited to speak to the Northeast Pasco concerned citizens at one of their meetings. In total, we touched about 80 to 90 people through that method, just hands-on, face-to-face. We had maps and graphics, and were able to get comments that way. The other thing we did, working with the county's communication department, is use the online tool called Community Remarks. It's an interactive website that lets folks go to the website, provide their comments. Other people can interact with the comments that are on there. They can vote on the projects, whether they like them or dislike them. In total, we've seen over 150 individual comments that have been provided that way as well. Some consistent themes that have come up from that is that maintenance seems to be a concern from residents. We heard that both in the southwest part, in the Holiday and Newport Richey area, and then we heard that in the northeast area as well. A lot of it dealing with safety, but condition of the roadways was a theme that we heard, in addition to the need for widening our roadways and adding capacity to the system. We also heard some comments from folks about the need for providing better and safer bicycle and walking projects throughout the community and the county. Two of the specific projects where I think I've seen the most comments, so it was nice to hear DOT's comments and about project status, was the 5441. People definitely recognize the concern there, and I think they'll like to know that there's projects coming on. We also have seen additional comments come in about the State Road 54 and 41 intersection and that project that we know is underway. Other comments that we've seen in as this public comment period closes out on August 15th, so this online tool will be available for the next week or so. We'll get those comments summarized not only for the plan development, but then coordinate with city and county staff as appropriate for passing that information on along for specific project needs that way. Just an update.
Can I jump in real quick? Yeah. Just real quick. And I'm glad you mentioned you with a chamber, so now it's the Greater Pasco Chamber.
Okay.
So I think you should meet with them probably once again since they've merged. But I think you should continue to meet with all the chambers. You have somebody from the Zephyr Hills Chamber here. You got the Dade City. You got the North Tampa Bay, and I think that's the 4 we have now in the county, right? I think that's the 4. So I think continually meeting with those chambers on an ongoing basis, you're going to get quite a bit of input that, I mean, all input matters, but you're gonna get a large number of people because of those meetings, and they'll show up in droves probably if it's announced ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the Rotaries are also good to meet with. You know, very, you smile, yeah, you guys are already meeting?
It was the Rotary, not the Chamber.
Oh,
I
so it
misspoke
was.
earlier. It was the
So
Rotary.
it was, okay, so, good. Okay. If you could, my suggestion, again, all the chambers, and you're gonna get, you know, a few hundred, if not 1,000 people just on that, and then continue with the, you know, you have quite a few Rotaries across the county, but they're very involved, they're very engaged in the process. So I think that's where you're gonna get a large majority of your citizenry.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Just
And
through
I
that.
I apologize. I had Rotary written down, but I
That's
like
okay.
eye contact,
That's
so
all
I
right.
said Chamber.
Yeah,
But
that's
no, we're trying to get out that. As we move into this next phase, what we'll be bringing back to you next month is just a preliminary look at, here are the projects, and as we look through priorities, where we'll look to be funding projects, and then there will be additional follow-up with public involvement at that. So we'll reach out to those groups and make sure we're coordinating with them as we have those opportunities.
And I think is it PACA?
PACA?
Yeah.
PACA, right? Yeah,
PACA
the
and Kona.
Neighborhood Association group
Yeah.
they'd be a good one too.
Right, and we did have a representative from PACA come to the meeting in Newport Richey, and I know that I've seen, just because of the names, I've seen a representative from Kona has
Kona,
provided
that's the other
comments
one.
on the
Kona,
website.
PACA and
So,
Kona, that's the two.
Commissioner Mariano?
I was gonna say, and to couple right along that, the Rotaries of the west side have actually, there's like, was 6, now it's called the West Side 7.
It's big.
They filled Spartan Manor with a joint meeting, getting everybody together, so that's probably a good group to get them all, that whole west side in one shot. West Side 7.
And Newport Richey alone has 150 members.
Yeah.
That's big.
okay. Yeah, so in September, we'll have a preliminary list of projects. We're actually meeting this afternoon, kind of between this meeting and the Planning Commission meeting with some county staff to talk about initial project priorities and some good funding cost estimates, making sure that we're consistent with what's in the capital improvements programs and moving those projects forward. But in September, I'll bring back a list of just some draft projects to look at as we're funding those, get your input and feedback. Come back again to you, again through your committees in that process in October to look at kind of a final draft of that before we go out to that public involvement and get a final review and comment on that. The plan is due for adoption in December. So I'll come back with a final plan at that point in time at your December meeting, where hopefully we can get that approved and sent off to Federal Highway for just kind of certification. So, any questions as far as process or things you'd like to see me bring back to you at future meetings?
Meeting with those groups.
All right, thanks so much, Mr.
Great,
Blaine.
thank you.
Next, we have Lee Beasley, who's going to do a presentation on the MPO roles and responsibilities.
Bottom. It's B.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think you saved me for last because you wanted some excitement. John so graciously invited me to come talk about roles and responsibilities of the MPOs because it's so varied, and some of the things you heard today play right into the importance of what the decisions you make here today. The middle, the big one? Okay. So I'm going to touch on some areas like the long-range transportation plan that Wally just talked about, transportation improvement programs and priority lists that you approved today, and the Unified Planning Work Program. And throughout this process, we'll talk about public involvement because that's where a lot of the decision-making process and advice that you get is from your public and constituents. Just looking at the role of the MPO, this is truly outlined in the federal guidelines and law that the state adopts in their laws also, and it talks about safety, security, access, mobility, and these are the things that the MPO looks at and considers in all their transportation plans and the decision making. Some of the Again, the big role of the MPO is engaging the public. And that's engaging the public through all of these processes. And that includes the Unified Planning Work Program, which is basically your business plan of how you're going to meet all these requirements and how the funding is spent in your county. The long-range transportation plan is the actual plan that looks at your goals and objectives that you took in consideration, the safety, security, and all those measures, and looking at what those objectives are, taking your cost feasible plan, which the state and the local governments provide you revenue forecasts, saying this is how much money you have. Let's see how many projects you can fund over the next 20 years. And then your transportation improvement program, which is your short plan strategy taken from that long-range plan. And I think that's really important, and you'll see that as we go on into the presentation. And you are more than welcome to stop me at any time. Pasco has a comprehensive public participation process, and they actually outline the requirements for how many days an ad has to be posted for all of these various items. And it has to be public noticed, particularly as they engage the board. Looking from the actual planning process itself, the very top thing you see is your long-range transportation plan. And I can tell you, Richard and the DOT team looks at your long-range plan as they look at the transportation priority list, because it comes from that plan. If it's not in your plan, DOT is going to be calling up and say, you know, you didn't consider this in your long-range plan. Once it hits the priority list, again, Richard steps in and says, we're going to look for that funding. It's projected. We're going to go ahead and program it. From the work program, you'll see that it goes into your transportation improvement program document that you get around March or April for approval. From that document, it goes into the statewide transportation improvement document. Then it gets implemented. So there's a lot of steps involved, but the good thing that the project gets funded and implemented. So again, as you heard Wally go through the presentation, earlier in the process, you've approved the goals and objectives, including the public participation. You're going through the needs assessment. Now you have the revenue forecast that was submitted to Pasco MPO. From that revenue forecast, you'll be seeing a cost feasible plan coming forward to you based on the funding availability and the projects listed, and based on your public input and participation. That will ultimately become part of your LRTP document that you'll approve again in December. What does the long-range plan, and I'm going to talk a little bit more on the funding side. So the long-range plan has specific funding bands. It has this long look. It has an unfunded needs plan, which you haven't funded anything yet. From that plan, you're going to look at available revenues and put them on those projects. So there's specific funding bands over the next 20 years. Just looking at the, as you look at the funding bands, you're going to weigh those projects. You actually have, and I think this is from your last long-range plan, these are the goals that are weighted. So you look at your projects and all those planning factors, and then they're weighted, and then they move into that funding. Just looking at your existing committed and improvement and cost affordable plans, You'll end up with existing proposed and needed bicycle, pedestrian, and trail and transit. And from that, you'll, again, develop your transportation improvement program. In the transportation improvement program, you'll see that there are a variety of fund types. I mean, you're like, there's a whole appendix for the fund types. Specifically, the programs that are available are Sun Trail, capacity, and resurfacing. Those are state program and funding areas. The state prioritizes the resurfacing program here in this area. Sun Trail is prioritized by the state, again, with a partnership of the Office of Greenway Trails. Federal funds that are available, and you'll see within your long-range plan, are transportation alternatives funds. There's also safe routes to school, safety money that's available, and there's also availability of BUILD, which replaced the Tiger Grant, which is the federal program. There's also state discretionary programs, the County Incentive Grant Program, Small County Outreach, TRIP, which the commissioner mentioned earlier, and Economic Development Transportation Fund. A lot of these funds are matched programs. I do know that this county has been extremely successful in securing some of the county incentive grant programs. Also, applications for all of these programs are required, so there's some specific requirements for each program, and those can be available through John's office. So what kind of revenues are we talking about over the next 20 years? This just gives you an idea. The top band is actually the long-range transportation plan revenue for other arterials. Those are your capacity fundings. So just looking at it in the 2020 time band, the tentative work program shows $100 million, and the long-range plan actually showed $19 million. So the district has been extremely generous in the 2020 time band. But if you look at the 21-24 time band, the tentative work program has $67 million, but the long-range band shows $145 million. So when the department sits down and looks at their work program, they're not going by year and trying to balance it specifically to that funding. They're looking at an overall 10-year period of making sure that the funding is there and everybody's getting what the available revenue is for their county. So if you actually add the two numbers together, you're doing quite well here in this county. SU, those are the famous federal flexible funding available. Again, in the 2020 band, there's, in the tentative work program, $2.9 million availability. But if you look at the overall program, it's more like $131 million, as opposed to what the long-range transportation plan is showing, which is $37 million. So you're, again, the department is really programming and providing you with projects and programming those needed priorities. But do notice that as you look in the outer years, it does go down. This is the Transportation Alternatives Fund. This is the popular program for trails and sidewalks that everybody loves. Right now, the county has about 1.3, 1.4 million programmed over the next 5 years in the tenant work program. There are quite a bit of funds available within your long-range plan that's projecting out. So what you see is the 4.3 funds are specifically for this planning area for Pasco. The TLA, or the TALT, the Anywhere funds, that's for the whole district. Those are competitive funds that this county would submit projects, the MPO would submit projects to the department against those specific funds. So there's available revenue to move projects forward within that program. Transportation Improvement Program, this cycle is kind of funny. The typical cycle is, as you know, August through September is when the board approves your priority list. It goes to the department by October 1. They take your list, they look at what all the revenues available, program dollars against it over the next 5 years, come to you in a public hearing manner or a board meeting, say, hey, this is what we did. Do you have any concerns or comments? Then in January, you submit any comments or questions. Come March, the department finalizes the program. They call it a final draft, provides that to the legislature, who then looks at the program. At the same time in April, the MPO submits it's basically, the TIP document includes the department's work program to you for approval around April. Then in July, the governor approves the state document. And then by July 15th, the MPO has that document approved on their own. And then October 1, Federal Highway adopts the statewide document. So it's kind of confusing. So you have several processes going on at the same time. It's a year-long process to adopt the document. You've adopted it, it goes to the legislature, the governor adopts it, then the Federal Highway adopts it in October. So that roll forward report, that TIP amendment that you just did, that's that time frame between July and October that Federal Highway has, that you have to get those amendments approved in your old plan, even though you've just adopted a new one. That's just the way it works. This year is an off year. To make it even more complicated, the legislature required the local governments to approve, the MPOs to approve their priority lists and all their documents, about 3 months early, 2 months earlier than this normal schedule, and that's every other year. So that even complicates it even more. I just want to touch on planning consistency. So you have your long-range plan, which is your overarching plan that has all your projects over the next 20 years. Then you have your TIP document that has the 5-year component, which is the 5 years. And everything has to match. So if you have a long-range plan and you say, this is my project, state road or county road, whatever it may be, from point A to point B, has to show up in your work program and the TIP document and any environmental documents that Federal Highway has to approve. It all has to be consistent. What happens if it's not consistent? Well, you either amend your long-range plan, you're amending TIPs, or you're amending the work program. So when you look at projects that move forward, everything has to be consistent. So what you do with the long-range plan here with Wally and his program, moving forward, is going to be consistent all the way through the life of the project. The other tidbit of information is once you have a project program and it's done the study, you have to follow it up with funding. So you may have a project in there 20 years from now that you want to fund for design, but you want to do the study now. They're not keen on moving projects forward that do not have the next phase program in the work program. So it's, when you have it on your priority list, it really needs to be something that you're ready to move forward with the funding and show it in your long-range plan the same way. Again, we talked about major milestones, just the important part, takeaway from this is as you go through with your long-range plan, which is so important, that's going to drive your next 4 or 5 years and how your county develops their transportation system in the next 20 years and where the funding's going. So I can take questions at this point. I know a lot of this, is very familiar to you, so I just enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. Any questions? No?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So other business items, there is a TMA meeting on September 6th in Hillsborough County Planning Commission Boardroom. Is anyone planning on going for that?
I'm going to be trying to make it. I'm going to a, Miami is having a resiliency meeting where they're trying to get a lot of Florida counties together, so I want to go to that. It's the 6th, well, 5th, 6th, and it's also the same Friday. If there were 3 other people to show up from Pasco County, I would stay there the extra day, but if no one else is going to show, then I'm going to go to that. So if you let staff know if you're going to make it, then that'd be great.
Then I have something, if it pleases the board, could we draft a letter from the MPO to the city of Port Richey and just stress the importance of having a representative from their city council come and join us again? That would be great, I think. Anything else come to the board? Entertain a motion to adjourn? We don't like to do that every meeting.
Just adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
You're in charge.
Lance, when